Kia ora, welcome to Central News for Friday, the 26th of September 2014. I'm Anne-Marie Case-Miller. A $154 million road maintenance contract is set to save ratepayers and road users an estimated $50 million over 7 years. The New Zealand Transport Agency and Western Bay of Plenty District Council contract, called West Roads Bay of Plenty, covers the maintenance, operations and renewal work on all Western Bay local roads and state highways within the Tauranga City and Western Bay of Plenty district boundaries. Awarded to Opus International Consultants Limited, the contract, which is cost-shared 50-50 between the Council and Transport Agency, will run for 7 years from November the 1st. It replaces the performance-based contract, which has operated in the Western Bay for more than a decade. Western Bay of Plenty District Mayor Ross Patterson says the contract is good news for council and ratepayers, as it will continue the significant savings and high level of service achieved under the previous contract. Fonterra has reduced its forecast farmgate milk price for the 2014-15 season from $6 to $5.30 per kilogramme of milk solids. The impact of that fall on New Zealand farmers as a whole could be around $1.1 billion, so says Dairy New Zealand Communications Manager Bernadine Walsh. However, the big drop won't mean cheaper prices on the supermarket shelves. Fonterra Chief Financial Officer Lucas Paraviginci says shoppers should not expect to see much of a drop in the retail price of milk. He said the price increases of last season had not been passed on to consumers, squeezing the cooperative's margins and contributing to a 76% drop in net profit. In sport, and New Zealand paddler Luka Jones recorded a top 10 finish at the World Canoe Slalom Championships in the United States yesterday. Jones qualified for the women's final at Deep Creek, Maryland, in second place, but a contentious error saw her miss out on what would have been a huge achievement for the Bay of Plenty paddler. The 25-year-old's 10th place was still a best for a New Zealand woman in the history of the event, but a mistake on gate 15, two-thirds of the way through the course, gave her a 50-second penalty that saw her slip down the order behind eventual winner Jess Fox of Australia. The 2014 Māori Women's Welfare League National Hui is underway, with about 700 people packing into the ASB Arena in Tauranga for the official pōwhiri to begin the event. For the first time since 1998, Tauranga Moana, which falls under the Tainui branch, will play host to the league's 62nd National Hui. The annual Hui is part conference, part AGM, and about 500 members have registered for the event that runs until tomorrow. A number of presentations will be held this year, including kōrero from the Families Commission, Royal Plunket Society of New Zealand, Manuriki and the Māori Women's Development League. Workshops will also be run and include topics such as Māori rangatahi, or young people, health and papakainga, housing on traditional land development. And finally, pasture resilience and data processing research have won a $5,000 boost each for 2 Waikato PhD candidates. First-year candidates Jack Pronger and Mark Will have recently received University of Waikato Top Achiever doctoral scholarships. Pronger is researching the difference in seasonal water use between 2 pasture systems under dairy grazing, and Will's research will examine the process of encrypted data securely in the cloud and find ways to make it more usable. Taking a look at the marine forecast now, Raglan, a nor'west of 15 knots, dying away on Saturday, becoming a nor'east of 15 knots on Sunday. High tide 9 minutes to 12 tomorrow morning. Bay of Plenty, southwest of 15 knots, tending early on Sunday to a nor'west of 10 knots. High tide expected at 7 minutes past 9 tomorrow morning. Still to come on Central News, the 1080 drop on Pirongia, CrossFit comes to Te Aroha, and the new Te Awamutu Library. Kia ora, welcome back to Central News. The Department of Conservation regularly employs aerial drops of 1080 poison in the Waikato to control the pest problem. The latest drop in Pirongia has caused some alarm, with Clyde Graff explaining to Amanda what has got him so concerned this particular time.
This time it's probably the same as last time. There's been another aerial 1080 poison drop across Mount Pirongia, which of course is we're just outside of Hamilton. And I filmed, or my brother and I filmed the clip of that drop, and it's gone to YouTube, and it's caused a little bit of unease in the community and with those involved with the drop.
Yeah, and what did you find when you went into film?
The first thing we found was that the choppers were working right next to the farms. There's only a 100-metre buffer zone, so it's aerially dropped across all of the streams, practically all of the streams. And then the following day we started to find dead carcasses, animals, which is what they're after. However, we also found that, for example, mother possums were poisoned, but the baby joeys, the little fellows, are still left alive.
Left to starve.
To starve or die of cold or suffer predation from something else. So in our opinion, it's an unacceptable way of managing the forests.
So you found 1080 in the streams. Mm-hmm. I thought that 1080 wasn't supposed to go into the waterways.
No, and it's not. The manufacturer's label clearly states do not use that product anywhere near waterways. In fact, Department of Conservation will claim on television at times they avoid the waterways because they use GPS technology. It's true that they use GPS technology, but it's not true that they avoid the waterways. In fact, just about all of the waterways in the Pirongia drop were dropped right across, directly into it, and there's flight charts to prove it.
Now, when an animal does ingest 1080, be it a possum, be it a deer, what actually happens to that? What happens to their body?
Yep. So once the animal uptakes the poison, the animals take up to, say, 24 hours to die. Now, it's a slow process. They go through a lot of different stages, but it ends up being convulsions and internal hemorrhaging, etc. Once that animal's dead...
When they're bleeding from the eyes.
Yes, that sort of thing. Once that animal is dead, it is then a bait for another animal, because 1080 poison causes secondary poisoning, not only with animals but also insects. So if you have insectivorous birds, like we do in Pirongia, they can be poisoned through eating poisoned insects, and they are. And so those carcasses are left to decompose where they fall. The manufacturer's label also states carcasses should be removed, picked up, removed, buried deeply. Well, in this particular case, like all others, the carcasses are left, some of them are in the streams, left to decompose and rot, and they're toxic as well. So eels and other wildlife can get at them as well.
Yeah, so you saying that DOC isn't going in to collect these carcasses, or they are, or they're just not doing a good enough job?
DOC does not go in to collect carcasses, no one does. They're just left where they fall. Unless it's on a farmer's property, and in regard to the Pirongia drop, like others, yes, a deer came out and died on a farmer's grassland, and so he calls the Department of Conservation or someone else to remove that carcass for them, and they take it away. But in regard to in the forest, all carcasses remain there. We have, for example, 6 species of native birds that actually eat carrion, which is dead animals. We have, I think, it's around 30 species that are at risk of 1080 poisoning through eating baits directly or through secondary poisoning.
Are you seeing native birds killed by 1080?
We sometimes do, but in this regard to Pirongia, it's been poisoned 3 times. And so there's not many birds in there anyway. So when we get in there, it's hard to see live birds, in fact. Yeah. And it's really hard to find live birds because dead birds, because there weren't many, to poison to start with. So, and the 1080 doesn't kill all of them; it kills percentages. And in general, I think the Department of Conservation may have stated in the past percentages, but it might be 20% of a species. It might not be, so many of that one, but more of that, but whatever it is. But it impacts birds as well, so it's not the way to go.
Yeah, so we're killing off the pest animals to save the native plants or to protect our native flora and fauna. Isn't that a good thing?
No, look, we've always had, in the past, there's always been moa. Reportedly, there were a huge number of moa across the country in some of our forests, and moa are a very aggressive browser. So they were also an important part of the forest because they would eat and then pass seeds through and spread the seeds. Research shows, Department of Conservation research shows that possums do that too. They do up to 20% of the total seed rain of a forest, possums, up to 75% for some species. So they're actually doing, it's not all bad about the possum, and the possum only has one young a year. So he's not out there, exploding in populations. But we can, in regard to Pirongia, definitely shouldn't be aerially poisoning. That should be targeted, other methods, ground control, whatever it is, target the species you're after, not the entire ecosystem.
Okay, now I know that the SPCA has now gotten involved. What are they saying? What are their views on this?
The SPCA has been concerned about the use of 1080 poison for a long time. Now, I'm not speaking for the SPCA. All I'm telling you is that I have had indications from SPCA that they are concerned. They're definitely concerned when it kills non-target species like deer. In aerial drops, we're seeing, on average, about 50% of a population of the deer poisoned. Pigs are poisoned, birds are poisoned, possums, all sorts of animals are poisoned, including the targets. But it's the way it's killing, the way the carcasses are left, and it's hitting the non-target species.
Is there a more humane way to control our pest population?
Yes, there is. And that, in regard to Pirongia, it would be sending people in there, dividing the area up into blocks, have hunters go in, and over a 3-year cycle perhaps, have them go in and do the job on the ground and target the species we're after. And in that way you can control what's going on. These aerial drops are totally out of control. They're, in my opinion, dangerous and completely against the manufacturer's warning labels.
For more information about 1080, go to the DOC website, or if you want to see more of the work Clyde does, visit thegraphboys.org. Up next on Central News, CrossFit comes to Te Aroha. Kia ora, welcome back to Central News. CrossFit has seen a huge surge in popularity over the past few years, and now it's arrived in Te Aroha. Owner and head coach at Kaimai Valley CrossFit, Stephen Curry, spoke with me recently about the popular sport. Stephen, can an untrained person do CrossFit?
Of course, they're my preferred member.
Why is that?
They don't have any bad habits. They're mouldable. No, it's because of CrossFit is scalable, and by that we mean that all movements can be made more difficult and less difficult to suit that person's needs. We can always find, it might take a little bit of work, but we can always find the level that they're at and then progress them to the level they want to be at.
So someone who's never lifted weights before could come to CrossFit, and as long as they've got a good instructor, they'll be okay.
Yep, in fact, I think 100% of my membership to date had never done a clean and jerk until they walked into my CrossFit gym.
How do you know if you've got a good instructor? What should we be looking for?
Well, that's a complex question, but a very, very good one. You need to have a discussion with the coach, the coaches and the owner of the gym before you sign up to anything, and have a discussion about what their background is, where their interests lie. You don't necessarily have to understand what they're saying, but that they have full answers and are willing to discuss these questions with you. You can even ask about the type of programming that the box has, whether it's catered more towards competitive exercisers versus whether they have a slightly more cardiovascular emphasis for endurance athletes or a slightly more weightlifting emphasis, depending on what the coach's interest is really and what the population of the membership is. But them being willing to discuss it is key.
Is there a governing body for CrossFit coaches? Is there a minimum qualification we should be looking for?
There is indeed. There's no governing body per se, but there is CrossFit headquarters, which is the body that you would apply to for affiliation. Okay. So you can't use the CrossFit name without becoming affiliated. That does require you to sit the CrossFit Level 1 certification. And that's a weekend course that indoctrinates into the CrossFit methodology.
Now, you're an osteopath in your day job as well, or your morning job in Te Aroha. I have to say that CrossFit and osteopathy I didn't really see as going together, but now actually they're both quite holistic. They're quite whole body, aren't they?
Exactly. It was something that led to me thinking the two would marry quite nicely. That I see a lot of people with movement disorders, and CrossFit is fundamentally about human movement and trying to improve that. So the people whom I fix, but not really, it's just remove pain, need some exercise on a regular basis to maintain their health and well-being, and CrossFit seems to tick all the boxes.
And you've recently opened Kaimai Valley CrossFit in Te Aroha, offering classes there. Yep. Tell me about that.
Well, I'm an osteopath upstairs and a CrossFit coach downstairs. It's just really short. I change into t-shirt and trousers for CrossFit and shirt and trousers for osteopathy.
And how many classes a week are happening at the moment in Te Aroha?
12 a week. We have Monday to Friday an afternoon class and then an evening class. And then a Saturday morning we have a morning class, and then also we have a free trial class every Saturday.
Oh, right. So someone can just come along and sit and watch, or actually
No, they participate. Yes. There's always participation. But the idea of the free trial is it's a much slower pace of a class, and the workout is more of an introductory workout. It's not too complicated, and I take my time and really break it down for them, as well as walk them through any questions they do have about CrossFit and the gym.
CrossFit has seen an upsurge over the past few years, and along with that has been a nutrition called paleo. Yep. Do the two go hand in hand?
Very much so. I think they're two sides of the same hand. The diet and nutrition is the foundation of all health. What you fuel yourself with is how you end up performing. So the paleo diet recommends we eat lean meats, fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, little starch, and no sugar.
So if you didn't kill it or grow it, don't eat it?
Pretty much.
And do you follow it?
Yes, yeah, maybe not as strictly as I should, but yes. And I've actually seen quite a shift in my energy levels and even performance within the gym as well.
You still have carbs. You still have something from every food group, but your carbs would be clean carbs, not bread or as such. They'd be from your pumpkin, potato, yams, kumara?
Yeah, yes, very much so. The orthodox paleo diet tries to shift us from a primary carb burning system to a fat burning system. So there's definitely, the macronutrients are all covered, but how our body utilises them, we try to shift.
So why does it go hand in hand with CrossFit?
It's a diet that we ancestrally started with. And our bodies and physiology haven't changed that much in the last 10, 15,000 years, but the world we live in definitely has. So the foods we're eating are now more processed and additives and preservatives, pesticides, more than ever. And what paleo tries to move us towards is a more ancestral type of diet that is better for our bodies, what we're designed to burn.
A clean way of eating and a clean, easy way of exercising too.
Exactly.
You can stay informed by following Kaimai Valley CrossFit on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com/Kaimai Valley CrossFit. And up next, we hear about the progress of the new Te Awamutu Library on Central News. Welcome back to Central News. There have been some exciting community projects to come out of the Waipa District Council's 10-year plan. I spoke with Mayor Jim Milcreast recently to find out how progress was coming on the Te Awamutu Library and Museum developments.
Well, we're progressing really quite well at the moment, particularly on the library. There's funding already committed in the annual plan, as you say, for the library construction at about 4.4 million, somewhere in that sort of order. And the museum is at a later stage, probably a year to 2 years out, and only $1.5 million has been committed to that project so far. And there's a requirement to try and achieve additional funding from other sources of about $3 million.
This project was more of a necessity than a luxury, wasn't it? The current library doesn't actually meet national standards.
Yes, I think the issue with the library is that although there are national standards, they're only recommended standards, and they're not compulsory at all. It's even when the new library is constructed, it'll be 3 times the size of our current library, but still won't meet those national standards. So they're pretty high standards. So realistically, I don't think there'd be many libraries in the country would meet that recommendation. So they're aspirational more than a requirement. But the feeling is in the community, and particularly with the naysayers, is that with the modern technology, e-books, that libraries won't actually get used. But that's quite the contrary. Our library use figures are continuing to rise. We've got it's one of the facilities that's got the highest amount of public use. So libraries are still important from a community perspective, and of course we have a huge ageing population as well, so that's adding to the demand for libraries. But we do need to cater for the younger people, and certainly we've talked to the high schools and students, head students, and just what they would like to see in a library, and they want free Wi-Fi of course, and a place to kick back, comfortable seats and things, and libraries are changing. They're not the quiet, dismal, dark places that they used to be many years ago. So having a cafe included in it and trying to encourage a whole cross-section of the public to use it is important.
You were concerned earlier this year about funding the build. Have those worries been alleviated now?
Well, the funding for the library is already committed, so there is really no issue with that. But the opportunity to build a library and museum together provides efficiencies, I suppose, in terms of doing the build, and it's also got operational efficiencies. We can use the same front of house staff to man the library and the museum. So having both of those facilities in the same building would be fantastic. And it's also part of the Te Awamutu drive to reinvigorate the town centre, I suppose, and to have it as the cornerstone development down by the event centre, the Te Awamutu Event Centre and Rose Gardens, as an attraction for the town. So yes, there's some real advantages if we can actually build them together.
For more information, go to waipardc.govt.nz. Time to take a look at the weather for the weekend now. Saturday, Hamilton can expect cloud to increase with drizzle, nor'westerlies and a high of 18 degrees, a low of 9. Pāroa, 18 your high with 9 your overnight low. Same low for Matamata, you'll scrape through to 16. Te Awamutu, 18 your high with 9 your overnight low. And we stay at 9 for Tokoroa with 15 the high for Saturday. Tauranga, cloud increasing with northerlies, a high of 17 degrees and a low of 11. Around the bay, Te Puke can expect a high of 16 degrees with 11 the overnight low. Taking a look at Sunday, Hamilton, rain developing, easterlies freshening and a high of 17 degrees, down to a low of 5 Saturday night. Pāroa, 18 and 9 your low. Matamata, 16 your high with 8 your overnight low. Te Awamutu, 17 and a low of 5. Same low for Tokoroa and a high of 15 degrees for Sunday. Heading to Tauranga, rain developing with the easterlies freshening and a high of 17 degrees with 8 the overnight low. Te Puke, 16 your high and 8 the overnight low. And that's Central News for today, Friday the 26th of September 2014. Thank you for joining me. Make sure you join our Facebook page and let us know of news in your community. Hillary is back from her wee holiday on Monday. Have a fantastic weekend. I'm Anne-Marie Case-Miller. Taki te anō.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.